There we go. All right, so let's see what we can do. Try and figure out this end behavior. Domain and range if possible. What do we got? So on this first one over here, what do we know about this one? Is it even or odd? Even. How do we know it's even? The 4. Our power tells us whether we're even or odd. Which means, is this positive or negative? Negative. This -3 tells us that part. So if this is even and negative, does that mean our arrows are going to match or go in the same direction? Or match or go in the opposite direction? They're going to match. Same direction, however you want to think about it, whatever word you use, but they're going to match. They're going to go together. Are they both going to point up or are they both going to point down? Down. So negative means our right arrow goes down. Since they're matching, they're both going to go down. So our end behavior officially, the negative means it's going down. That's what that arrow means. I don't want us to think that that meant up because I drew an up arrow, just trying to make things clear. So that negative tells us this is going down. So no matter what's happening in the middle, it's probably going to look something like this-ish. 2 arrows that point down. It might be wiggly squiggly in the middle. Maybe it's not. Maybe it just looks like that. So our official end behavior is going to be as x approaches infinity. If we talk about our right arrow first, that means our y's are going to approach what? I heard it was very quiet, but it was there. Negative infinity. That's looking at our right arrow. You do not have to do the right arrow first. It's just how we've been kind of doing it. So it's kind of the way I've just been throwing it out here. So if we talk about our right arrow as x approaching positive infinity, that's over here. This left-hand side, that's as our x approaches negative infinity. And it is important that we have all those pieces here, guys. So I've had some people that just put infinity and negative infinity. I have some people that just put the x in the arrow and then go straight over here. It's important that we get all these pieces in. So what's going to happen to our y on the left arrow? As x approaches negative infinity, what does y approach? Negative infinity, because they match. So do we know our domain on this one? Where are our x's going to be? What's the smallest x we can use? What's the biggest x we can use? Oh, this does, but it's a little hard. Where do our x's go? What's our smallest possible x? Negative infinity. And our biggest is positive infinity. In fact, all polynomials are going to have the domain of negative infinity to positive infinity. That's part of the definition of being a polynomial. If we can write end behavior like this, it's going to have both of those pieces. Do we have enough information to get our range? Remember, our range has to do with our y's. With these both pointing down, it is going to be negative infinity to 0, but it's also one of those things that we might not be able to spot. Just because this doesn't have other pieces here, it will be 0, but on our even degreed functions, it's not as easy. So if we don't get the range on that, that's okay. So if all we get is domain, I'm good with that, because range would come when we properly graph things. It would be from negative infinity to 0, just to confirm that that is absolutely correct. But that is one of those things we can only really spot if I toss on this grid here. Let's look at the right-hand one and see why I made that specification there. So on the right-hand one, are we even or odd? Odd. We look at our power for that. 5 is an odd number, so we know it's going to be odd. Are we positive or negative? Positive. That 2 tells us that. That is not how we spell positive. Positive. So good at spelling, y'all. Oh my gosh. I am so good at spelling. I am the bestest at spelling. I have a mug over there that says math is important, or English is important, but math is importanter. Very fitting for me. So, are our arrows going to go in opposite directions, or are they going to match? What do you think? Matching or opposite? Opposite. Odds go in opposite directions. And are we going to have the right arrow pointing up or pointing down? Up. The right is always going to match the sign of our leading coefficient. So our right goes up. So as x approaches positive infinity, that's my right arrow, our y approaches what? I said our right goes up, so how do I say that? Positive infinity. Good. Then as x approaches negative infinity, looking at my left arrow, what happens to y? Negative infinity, because they go in opposite directions. That means this thing kind of looks like that. So do we know our domain? I'm just going to switch the two because we always go smallest to biggest. So negative infinity to positive infinity. On this one, do we know our range? Negative infinity to positive infinity. Since I have one arrow that points down and one arrow that points up, it's covering everything. So our odd degreed functions are always going to have this negative infinity to positive infinity for both domain and range. Because they point in opposite directions. By definition, they have to go everywhere. Whether they're pointing up super duper straight like this or if they're pointing further out like this. They're going in both directions, up and out. Okay, so odd degreed functions will always have positive infinity, negative infinity for both. Okay, because odds point in opposite directions. Okay, questions about those two? Okay, so what we're going to do is I'm going to pass out your homeworks that I've gotten back so that we can look at them because I don't want to do the skills check when we haven't gotten literally any feedback left. So I'm going to pass back everything I have. When I grade things, if it's got a check mark next to it, it means it was right. If it has an X next to it, that means it was wrong. I only graded the things that have marks. So I don't grade every single question because honestly it would take me an eternity between these 75 people in Algebra 2 and the 50 people I have in pre-cal. I would just never, ever get to see any of my family ever. So I don't grade every single question. But I want us to go through it so we can see it and all that jazz. So I'm going to pass back everything I have, and then we'll go through extra stuff. So get your 4.2 out if you haven't turned it in. I know a couple people did. But I'm going to pass back everything I have. We're going to go through all of it real quick before we do the skills check for today. This is also how I learn names sometimes. We'll look at those in a second. All right, so we're going to look at all of these, and I'm going to show you the answer keys for all of them. All of them, just so that we can look at that and see. So if you have any specific questions, I'm happy to work through anything you want to. But I'm going to go ahead and start with 4.1, the front side. So if you look at 4.1, this is what the correct answer should be. This is everything except through the bottom, just because my picture quality is beauteous. So if you have any questions on any of these, I'm happy to go through it, but this is what I was getting. It's totally valid if you have a question on something. I've been known to get things wrong, but it's not super likely. But if you have questions on any of them, I'm happy to talk through it. And I will also post these answer keys with a better picture quality because, ew. But it was one of those slapdash, put it together kind of deals. So I will post the answer keys for these now that I'm showing them to you, but I just haven't gotten there yet. So any questions on the front side of 4-1? The bottom three are 11.5 for A, 15.5 for B, and 6 and -2 for C. I just didn't get those in the picture because there's one. Okay, if we have no questions on the front, let's look at the back. I did get the whole page on this one. Ah, snap. So we should have had 1, 1 and 3, 3 at the top. And then this bottom one is not a polynomial in one variable. It has 2 variables. That's what it is. It was like, it's not a polynomial. It has 2 variables. So this one is not something that we're working with. These ones I had a lot of people get most or partial on it. So make sure you're being careful with these positive, negative, and end behavior stuff. There wasn't like a consistent issue with it, so I'm not sure where things went wrong. I think it was just kind of a practice situation. And we've talked about it a whole lot more since then. But make sure you double check these ones. I did grade these ones for most everybody. But just one of those things, if you're not sure, I'm happy to talk it through. Got any questions? Okay. Let's look at 4-2 then. It should have looked like this for the front side. We had a parabola, we had a cubic. I put down a couple of different ways to write down the extrema for the first one. That it was near that -1.5 or between -2 and -1. Somewhere in that area. I don't care how you word it. Just looking at it, trying to get the vibe of it. But it's right in between where we'd have that lowest spot. If you said near x equals -1 or near x equals -2, I'd pick that as well. The second one, we should have had a root between -3 and -2, and that we have a relative maximum near -1 and a relative minimum near x equals 0. Because we're looking for those little baby mountains or little baby valleys. Questions on any of those? Oh, I can always zoom in if I need to. Okay. Questions on any of those? Okay. All right, let's go on the back. There we go. Oh, yeah, no, I can zoom in way further. Oh, because it's not on the, there we go. There we go. Zoom it in just a little bit, just because I know it's beautiful photo quality. Totally gorgeous. We love it so much. It was just kind of rushed out. But so there's the back side. Neither one of these had actual zeros. Neither one did. They didn't hit that x-axis. A couple of them got close, but they weren't actually there. And that's okay. That'll happen. I'm not super happy that both of them had that, but I didn't get to change the homework on this one, so it wasn't my choice. But we had our extrema here. If you list it as a minimum instead of a relative minimum, on these ones it's okay because we're not looking at the whole function, we're just looking at the right-hand side. So I can see the argument for it being an absolute minimum, because otherwise we'd have to go backwards in time. So if you write either of these as a absolute minimum, I'm totally okay with that on these real world problems. Okay, questions on any of these pieces? I just didn't want to give us a skills check and not give us the opportunity to either see what the right answers were, ask questions, all that jazz. It just didn't feel fair. Okay, so I wanted to give us the opportunity to see what the right answers were, make sure we got where we needed to be, ask questions if we had them, and all that jazz. Okay? So questions on any of these things? Okay, so I'm going to grab the skills check for us to do. It is not super long. It has 2 multiple choice questions. There we go. And 3 fill in the blanks. Like they're not even full show your works. They're like fill in the blanks. Before I pass those out though, we're gonna do a quick reminder on rules for when we're testing. Because I've had some people be genuinely surprised about these. I don't know why. They should have been the same for the whole time you've been in school. If you're using your phone while you have an assessment of any kind in front of you, be it quiz, test, skills check, exit ticket, any of that thing, you get a 0. Don't mess with your phone. If whatever, like even if it's just, oh, you're listening with my music, I don't hear you on your phone. If you can't get through the test without messing with your playlist, pick a better playlist. Don't mess with your phone. It counts as academic dishonesty because I can't tell that you're not photomathing it or whatever app y'all are using because you get ahead of me on technology all the dang time. So don't touch your phone. Because if you get a 0 on it, then you also don't get to do a retake on it. I will tell you when everybody's done so you guys can talk to each other. I have no issue with that. Just don't talk before the tests are done. It's rude to the people around you. And so this is like how it's going to be for like the whole semester. You're not messing with your phone during tests. You're not messing with your phone during quizzes. Like just don't. If you can't get through your test without playing with your playlist physically, take your headphones out. This is seriously, it's a single page with 2 multiple choice questions and 3 fill in the blanks. Yes, my friend.
So once we're done with ours, we can...
Yeah, and once you're done with it, as long as it's quiet enough that your neighbors can't hear it, I don't care. So listen to it quietly because it's almost never as quiet as you think it is. And yes, everyone's headphones leak sound. I don't care how expensive they were. They all leak sound in a quiet room. So keep it low. Once everyone can talk, you can crank it up and tune everybody up. If I hear it coming through your headphones, I will tell you that I'm hearing it. And I know most headphones have a volume button. That's okay. I'm not going to take your test away for turning the volume down on your headphones. I don't want you like scrolling through and changing songs and playing with your playlist and la. Okay? So, just being clear. All right, that is the wrong time because that was last chapter. So I will put the correct time on there here in just a second. I'm going to pass these out. You guys get the whole rest of the time if you need it, which is more than 20 minutes. Genuinely, I don't think you will need that much time. If you need it, more power to you, have it. I will promise I will tell you when everybody's done, but like, you'll be out. Okay. All right, so I'm pass these out. When you're done, turn it in. Put the homework away. Yeah, put the homework away. If you haven't turned in your 4.2 for points, like if there's not a score on the top, you're going to turn it in today. But yeah. But no, don't use your homework on a quiz. Excellent question. I didn't even think about that.